Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'm here with Simon McLoughlin. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Uphold, and today we're going to be talking about some of the new products and services that are coming out from Uphold, having to do with a cash-based USDC interest-bearing account. And we're also going to be talking about the overall vision that he has and I have and the rest of cryptocurrency has for bridging traditional finance and the cryptocurrency sector. So Simon, thank you so very much for being here. How are you doing today?
Great, Jeb. Thanks. Thank you for having me. Great to speak with you.
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to this. Can we get started by just tell us a little bit about you and how did you get into the cryptocurrency space?
Sure. I worked in traditional finance and I read a book about Bitcoin and I became fascinated by the potential of blockchain technology to facilitate cross-border payments, basically. I'd experienced, a lot of the friction that goes with living abroad and trying to move money between accounts and between countries, and kind of just wakes you up to the fact that a lot of the financial infrastructure we use today, especially on an international level, is sort of dates from the 1950s. So I became fascinated by it, and I was just determined to work in the industry.
Yes, for sure. So just a couple questions before we get into Uphold. What was your journey with getting into cryptocurrency? I know, being somebody who's a big thought leader in the space, people are definitely interested in anybody at that point. Like, what was your how did you get orange pilled? Let's put it that way.
Interestingly, I started at LexisNexis, which does compliance solutions for big companies. And then I got to work in the broker-dealer space and helped to start a platform that introduces asset managers to pension funds and institutional investors and eliminates a lot of the friction. And from that broker-dealer space, I got really interested in the way that technology can eliminate friction in money movements. And if you got any kind of background in financial platforms, you realize money is just digital information on a ledger. Therefore, why shouldn't it move as seamlessly as email across the world?
I suppose that was a big part of what led you to Uphold. How did you end up becoming? How did you end up coming on with Uphold?
I wrote on spec actually to a bunch of crypto firms about 8 years ago, and I was just determined to get into the space because I found it so fascinating. And I went through like 3 rounds of interviews at Uphold. And I finally decided just to close the deal by jumping on an airplane, flying to California and saying to my predecessor, JP Terrier, I really want this job. You really should. And he hired me. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So let's get into actually some of what's Uphold's doing. I'm really excited about the fact that every 6 to 12 months, you guys are launching new products that are really helping anybody from the beginner to the advanced trader in cryptocurrency. You guys have just launched Vault, which we absolutely love. And now you guys are launching USD interest accounts for your users. So what is that like, being one of the first platforms, I think actually the first crypto platform to offer such a product? How has that, can you tell us more about that product?
Yeah, we're really excited about it because no other crypto platform allows you to earn up to 5% interest on US dollars and enjoy FDIC insurance up to $2.5 million. And when you think about crypto traders, they all hold dollars on crypto platforms. It's your dry powder for trading, and it's what you trade into when you take your profits. And somebody's earning the interest on those dollars. It's either the underlying bank or it's the crypto platform itself, but it's never the customer. And so we think we're solving a really big problem for customers here because they can earn up to 5% on their dollars held on Uphold. The dollars are instantly available for trading, and it's particularly suitable for large amounts because normally FDIC insurance covers you up to $250,000. Our instant USD account covers you up to $2.5 million. In insurance. So fundamentally, there's no more secure way of holding dollars on a crypto platform. And, we think it's a great innovation for users.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very competitive, like you said, it being the first. And one of the things that I want to point out about it that I think is very helpful, because you guys at Uphold, you have a very obvious heart to bring things that are normally kind of held back for people that are million, 10 million, $100 million net worth, trying to make it as simple as possible for the everyday user. And one of the things I really like about the USD interest accounts is the minimum. Like you don't have to have very much money in there at all to generate 5%. Most high yield savings accounts, the high yield savings account that we personally use, I think you have to have a $20,000 minimum before you actually get that rate. And at Uphold, it's very, very small. So just about that rate is available to like everybody, right?
That's right. I mean, the universal access point was very important for us. So from $1 in this account, you earn 2% On a balance above $1,000, you earn 5%. The $1 threshold for us was very important because we're all about universal access. You shouldn't have to be wealthy to enjoy really attractive rates of return on your money. So, that's really special about it. And there's no subscription. Normally, these high rates of interest sit behind a subscription wall. There's no lockup period, so you can get your money instantly. And it's integrated with the app. So, you can move your money instantly between cryptocurrency and the USD interest account. So, for us, I think for customers, it's going to be a tremendously convenient way to hold dollars for trading and to take profits. You don't have to withdraw funds to your bank. Why would you? Because you enjoy better insurance and a better yield in the Uphold USD interest account.
Right. And so a couple thoughts on that. It's really important that people realize that threshold of 1,000. Normally, most banks, that's like $10,000 or more before you actually get the highest rate. You guys have brought it down as low as possible because you want to make sure that it's available to as many as possible. And that's really exciting for me because I teach a lot on not just the analysis and where the market's going to go, but I also teach because if we just talk about where the market's going to go, but we don't do anything with it, then all we're doing is being entertained. We're not actually being applicable. One of the things I teach is that we've got a dollar cost average, but it's also a great idea to put money into a cash account, into the dry powder account, so that when you do see a dip, you can deploy it quickly. And if people have their dry powder sitting in a stable coin or some kind of project that has a lockup period, then they can't get to it. If they have it in a bank, they might have to wait a couple of days for it to hit the bank account. So their only option is to leave it in cash on the platform. And if it's not generating interest, like you said, nobody's getting it. So this is the perfect place. This is the #1 place in the entire cryptocurrency space, I think, that people should hold their cash in dry powder so they can quickly deploy it while still earning that interest. And I really think it's a great product for that reason. I assume those were some of the things you guys were thinking about when you were building this, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, people don't hold their dry powder in stablecoins. Stablecoins aren't insured. They hold it in dollars. And so we just wanted to offer a really high rate of interest that's accessible to everybody and that allows instant trading between crypto and into fiat. The instant nature of the settlement is incredibly important. Traditionally, when you try and move money into a broker account, there's up to 5 business days, typically 2 business days of delay. This is instant. So, you can get your money in, you can get your money out anytime. And it really takes away the incentive to move money back to your bank account, which, on a lot of platforms, that incurs fees. It's inconvenient. You have to push the money back on again. So we really think, for crypto traders, it's going to be the best way to trade because it's so convenient and high yielding. So the important thing to understand is the yield is generated by a US broker dealer. So this is an onshore, highly proven model, and the yield comes by the cash being swept into a network of banks. They use it as deposits, and the banks use it because it counts on their balance sheet as deposits and not borrowings. So the source of the yield is onshore. It's a proven model. It's a stable form. It's a stable form of yield. The customer experience we're really proud about because you can set up the account within literally a couple of minutes. You don't have to rekey any information. It's all sucked across from Uphold. You can be up and running with a USD interest account in a couple of minutes. So it's a very seamless and instant experience.
So even big traders, this is a great place to park their cryptocurrency. But can we talk a little bit about the difference between holding your assets in a stable coin, because you can generate yield in a stable coin, versus holding it in cash here? And I know that a lot of that has to do with the insurance. So can you tell us a little bit about the differences there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the parts of the program I really love is that the program automatically cuts your deposit up into $250,000 chunks and distributes it amongst the underlying banks. So you automatically benefit from the highest level of FDIC insurance from each bank. So it's like aggregated FDIC insurance, all done automatically behind the scene. When you get your statement from your USD interest account, you'll actually be able to see the individual underlying banks where the money is held. Each of those banks is insured up to, the account at each bank is insured up to $250,000. So to your point, if you're a wealthier trader and you want to deposit large amounts in, it's fully insured. There's nothing like that in the cryptocurrency space.
Right. Yeah. And that's incredible. How is this going to shape the overall user experience on Uphold?
I think for us, it was very important to launch this because we want people to feel comfortable holding large amounts of dollars on the platform. It being run by a US broker dealer and the dollars being held in underlying banks provides a tremendous amount of security and trust. We think it will encourage people to trade larger ticket sizes, but there's also the simple convenience point. You don't have to keep shuffling money backwards and forwards into your bank account and incurring unnecessary charges. On so many platforms, people take their profits from crypto trading, they shift them back into their bank, then they move, and depending on which withdrawal method you use, you can incur fees on the withdrawals. If you choose instant withdrawals, you can pay, I don't know, 1.75% on a lot of platforms. It takes away all of the need to shuffle money around. You keep it in the app, it's adjacent to trading, it's earning up to 5%, and it's insured. So, for us, bridging the gap between decentralized finance and traditional finance is a big part of our mission. And this is a great example of how we're bringing the two together to create a really convenient and easy experience.
Absolutely. And you actually kind of touched on my next question, but I love how you guys are building a application, a exchange, and a ecosystem that is at the one side extremely user-friendly and the kind of place that a beginner would want to start with all the different products, USD Interest, Vault, the breadth of cryptocurrencies. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also, it's not just a beginner exchange. You've got incredibly advanced features for people that have multi-million-dollar net worth, and you've kind of got the entire breadth going on there because that fits to your mission of wanting to bridge TradFi and DeFi. There's a lot of people in both that have a lot of money, but why shouldn't they have access to good tools like you guys have? So how does USD Interest and all the other all the other developments you guys are coming out with help to bridge that gap and serve that mission of bridging TradFi and DeFi?
Well, I think some of the best crypto platforms narrow the gap between traditional finance and decentralized finance, because you want to be able to get dollars on and off as easily as possible. So if you've got the best fiat to crypto on-ramp, which is often the battle in so many parts of the world, you're at a huge advantage. Customers just benefit from being able to load money on and take it off really easily. In certain countries we operate in, the UK is a good example. Banks in the UK will stop you moving more than £5,000 a month, often less. Some of them are £2,000 a month into crypto. Why should they tell you how to spend your money? That's just crackers. Right. It's so paternalistic. Here's a fiat to crypto on-ramp that just puts you in control, and you can put you can load up your dollars and you can put it into this insured high interest vehicle that comes from traditional finance, but it's embedded in a crypto app. So the distance between crypto trading, the exciting world of decentralized finance, and traditional finance is narrowed. It's almost we want it to be invisible. It's just bringing old rails and new rails together. When you think about what Uphold is, we're a regulated entity that allows that conversion of fiat into crypto. That we're like a gateway into decentralized finance, and making that gateway as easy to use, as simple, with as few restrictions on as possible is incredibly important.
Absolutely. So kind of bridging the gap and almost blurring the lines between TradFi and DeFi so that it's easy for as many people to come over as possible. So to that point and to that vision and mission, what are some of the other ways you guys are planning on improving trading experience? And are there other products that are coming online? What's the roadmap for 2024, 2025?
Yeah, so I mean, the number one request from our customers is yield. Yield on fiat, which is the USD interest account. Yield on stable coins. There'll be an announcement, a very exciting rewards program we're launching in October, and of course staking on crypto. We're determined to. We had a great staking program in the US about a year ago. We took it. We withdrew it because of the SEC actions against various exchanges. But I think now the political temperature is changing, and the regulatory landscape in the US is starting to look a lot more benign and sensible. We hope there will come a time pretty soon when we can reintroduce that staking program. So
what do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so the story is, to the end of this year, it's about yield. Early next year, it's about payments. There'll be all kinds of innovations we're bringing in the payment space. We want to make it super easy for you to pay your bills, do cross-border transfers. We've just recently gone from having fiat crypto on-ramps in 28 countries to as of September the 9th, we have it in 150 countries. That's a great opportunity for us to open up easy cross-border transfer. So payments will be first half of next year, and lending, collateralized loans against crypto, we want to introduce in the second half of next year.
That's amazing. So you guys are almost building the home where somebody can actually base their entire financial life out of there. You said paying bills. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. You guys are almost acting like a cryptocurrency institution where people can make their home and finance. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. I mean, on the consumer side of our business, our vision is we want to create a crypto-enabled bank. You know, fundamentally, you have the best of old rails, you have the best of new rails. We fundamentally bring the best of decentralized finance together with the best of traditional finance in one incredibly easy to use app. Payments is super important for us because people invest episodically, but they pay every day. So if you can create a super easy, rewarding, enjoyable, fun experience, you know, you build a much closer connection with the app, and you know, it becomes part of your daily financial life.
That's amazing. That's a huge vision. You know, you talked a little bit about the political landscape, and we don't have to get into the election and everything, but what do you think the next year outlook is looking like for cryptocurrency? Because I know that's a big source of FUD, a big source of fear that people have right now is what's going to happen in November, what's going to happen with new administrations. Obviously, we can't predict what that's going to do, but what in general do you think the current political landscape is doing to the cryptocurrency market, and how do you think people should respond to that?
It's a great question. I mean, to state the obvious, I don't know the future and I can't make predictions. But I mean, the market may look a bit wobbly at the moment, but I think there are some really big fundamental factors that make me optimistic. The first is the presidential election. I think there is a sea change in tone towards cryptocurrency by both Republicans and Democrats. I think they've woken up to the fact that there are up to 50 million single issue swing voters out for grabs. I've heard from people familiar with the matter that, you know, Harris is determined to make a break with the Biden legacy here, but doesn't want to do it yet. What we need is more than words; we need actions. But I think at a macro scale, incredibly encouraging. I mean, today's news, for example, Grace launched XRP Trust. I mean, that opens the gateway potentially to you know, an XRP ETF, which opens the gateway to institutional investment in XRP. Now that Ripple have won such a significant victory over the SEC, I think it sterilizes that whole space and paves the way to wider adoption. And I'm very encouraged by, you know, the whole industry now is less about competing chains and much more about trying to build a multi-chain world where different projects talk to each other. You know, and I think that's absolutely key. If you look at NFTs, currently, I think 96% of them are dead. And one of the reasons is, how can you possibly, you know, the ultimate, my opinion is the ultimate application of NFTs is for financial obligations. But how can you possibly use them for financial obligations when current world exists on one chain? If the chain goes down, where's your financial obligation? Multi-chain world, then NFTs as financial obligations, to give one example, become super interesting. I'll give you one statistic that I found very interesting, which is that our traders noticed the other day that if you look at BTC options, there are 200,000 call options for December versus 100,000 puts. This is for Bitcoin. And the biggest tranche is sitting at $90,000. So traders assume that the rally is going to resume.
You mentioned the XRP Trust that was just announced, and, you know, Uphold was, I think, the only major cryptocurrency platform that didn't delist XRP because you guys, obviously, you were waiting for an actual adjudication. The rest of the exchanges took it down. So you guys were a big ally of XRP. What do you think that XRP Trust is going to do for XRP in the broader cryptocurrency space?
Well, I think it stimulates a lot of speculation around there being. Look, I think it's inevitable that there'll be an ETF for XRP, in my opinion. I mean, now the court case is resolved, a big shadow is lifted over the project. The Ripple project has the potential to really transform the financial infrastructure, and it's been held back by this legal case for so many years. But now that's behind it, I think I'd be surprised if there wasn't an ETF for XRP in the foreseeable future, and that's the point at which institutional adoption, you know, becomes a reality. So yeah, again, I'm very excited about that.
How do you think the XRP? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, as you know, we're a node in the XRP network. You know, so we can see institutions using XRP to move money cross border, and it's very exciting.
For people that, you know, XRP is such an interesting point. What I know that its adoption is growing, especially since the court case was resolved, and this is definitely going to help. What do you say to people that are a little bit concerned about XRP right now with price? A lot of the XRP army have been holding for years, and they're looking for a big rally. Do you think that's, obviously we can't make anything for certain, but do you think the increased adoption that's coming from the institutions, and do you think something like the XRP Trust would end up helping the XRP project do better than it has been price action wise?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think the advent of the trust and if an ETF happens, I mean, that bodes exceptionally well. Again, I don't do predictions. I don't know the future.
Of course.
But what I would say is, with a big shadow lifted off the project, and clear regulations emerging in many parts of the world, which kind of sterilize the space, the potential for corporate and bank adoption is better than it's ever been. And I do think the stable coin will help them immensely. I mean, bankers don't do stable coins, right? They do fiat. It's much easier to explain fiat on crypto rails than crypto on crypto rails. So I think it just, I would imagine it will just make the sales and adoption process easier.
Right. And so what, you know, that in this conversation of ETFs, obviously we had the Bitcoin ETF come online earlier this year. We had the Ethereum ETF come online earlier this year. Obviously 2024 has been the year of institutionalization, of mass adoption. It's been the year of bridging the gap between cryptocurrency and the traditional financial space. What kind of impacts do you think we're going to see over the next 2, 5, 10 years from the SEC finally allowing ETFs to come online? What do you think the future is of that kind of merging between traditional financial rails like exchange traded products and the cryptocurrencies that they're being built around?
Well, it's fascinating to speculate, isn't it? I think the institutionalization of Bitcoin and Ethereum this year has kind of been fascinating. One consequence is lower volatility. You know, Bitcoin volatility is at its lowest for a long time, and you've got this anchor now of institutional capital that just changes the whole dynamics from it being an experimental sandbox with relatively low liquidity. So the prices move a lot to a much more stable landscape. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm an optimist, and I think that the thing that's easiest to overlook, because it's a bit dry and arcane, is the impact of countries like the UK, the European Union, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, developing really clear and detailed rules for cryptocurrency. It legitimizes the space. It gives permission for enterprises and financial institutions to adopt them as legitimate instruments. You know, and I really do believe that stable coins are going to eat the world and become absolutely huge for payments.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think what we're looking at now is that we've got a lot of RIAs and wealth managers getting into the cryptocurrency space. And so what would, I guess a big question I'd have for you is what's your outlook on the growth of Uphold, but also on the growth of the space that it represents, which is the cryptocurrency space over the course of the decade? Obviously, we're speculating here, but it is fascinating for our viewers and for me. What do you see the next 5 years looking like for Uphold, part one, but also part two for the rest of the space that it's representing?
Well, I'm very excited about where we are. I mean, my goal has always been to try and get the business to a point by the end of 2027 where we're making the majority of our revenues from enterprise clients. Love the consumer space. I think the crypto-enabled neobank is a fabulous vision, but the processing of payments for corporates cross-border is a space that's really taking off for us. Last year, we made around 8% of our revenues from companies. This year, we anticipate, you know, we could be making around 20% of our revenues from the corporate space. So wow. Again, and you know, that whole space was a narrative that wasn't real until regs came in, and the impact of, you know, next year depends who you listen to, but by some measures, Europe is the world's largest crypto market. And wow. Middle of June the 1st next year, common set of rules across this enormous economic area. And, the whole crypto and blockchain technology space is legitimized and sterilized, not just for retail, but for corporates to start to adopt it.
Right. What do you think are some of the hurdles that companies and big actors in the cryptocurrency space have been facing over the last few years towards actually adopting the cryptocurrencies? And what are some of the ways that regulation are going to bring those barriers down to actually allow that that onboarding of these major institutions? Obviously, we've seen a lot so far, but what do you think are some that still need to come down, and what do you think is going to happen to allow them to come down?
Well, I think at one level, when you think about it, crypto has been a sandbox basically, and if you're a mature company with a governance process, you're not going to touch something that's a sandbox. Which, I mean, the US is a really good example, right? Until there are still some parts of the crypto space, you're a third party looking in, you don't even know if the activity is legal, and this is why it's so important to to establish clear rules of the road so that companies can adopt the technology in a responsible way. I mean, the whole altcoin space in the United States, there's still a shadow over it because there are not clear rules. If you look at the UK and you look at Europe, they're super clear on what the rules are. And they've introduced detailed regulation for stable coins, and it just provides the clarity and confidence and trust that companies need in order to adopt the technology. Otherwise, they're not going to take the risk.
Absolutely, and that's so amazing that we are finally seeing the barriers come down so that we can see companies and corporations coming into the cryptocurrency space, because obviously we know that is where a lot of the money is, them representing their clients. But let's switch gears here a little bit, and I want to ask you, what are some of the big ways that you have seen cryptocurrency being integrated into day-to-day life? Obviously, there's a lot of this going on over the last few years of cryptocurrency being integrated into our day-to-day life. What are some of those things that you've seen happening that excite you?
Well, I think the obvious one for me, because the economic and the rational case is so clear, is gaming. I think that the opportunity to go from Web 2 gaming to Web 3 gaming. So, rather than holding an asset that has no value outside the game, you're holding an NFT that represents real tradable value outside the game. I think that's a fascinating area. I think Bitcoin is super interesting right now because there's a real move to it becoming programmable, and Bitcoin has always been a fantastic narrative, groundbreaking technology, but arguably without a genuine utility case behind it. The best case at the moment is somebody described it to me as gold with teleportation, which I loved.
That's great.
Yeah, which is fantastic. But I think that the thing that's going to transform everybody's lives is we live in a global. We buy stuff all over the world via the web. Stable coins are just going to become huge. They're going to transform, I believe, the way people pay for stuff, the way companies move money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the wonderful thing, that we're finally seeing this adoption just really kick into high gear. I got into the cryptocurrency space in 2017. When I got in, a lot of reports say that there were between 10 and 20 million people in the cryptocurrency space. Now reports say there's anywhere between 200 and 600 million people in the cryptocurrency space. So I've just witnessed this absolute explosion of adoption take place. And it really breaks my heart when I see people just so terrified, because the market's been trading sideways for 6 months. And I want to know from your professional opinion, I mean, you are in the upper echelons of business here in the cryptocurrency space. You're obviously going to have a great perspective on this. What would you say to somebody who's afraid right now because Bitcoin's been sideways? We both obviously have a very bullish outlook on the adoption and the growth of the space. But what would you say to somebody who is afraid right now? Because there are a lot of people afraid of the market right now, and I'm sure they could use your input on that.
I would say, if you believe in the fundamental utility of blockchain technology, you should be incredibly optimistic and confident. For me, it's never been about crypto. One of the problems with this space is there are so many labels that are misleading. Crypto is such a bad label. In many ways, it's outdated. It's anachronistic. The real story is blockchain technology, which solves one of the world's biggest problems, which is we can't move money easily, quickly, instantly across border. And, you know, blockchain technology allows that, and it collapses so many separate processes into one layer. You know, settlement, origination, it's all in one layer. And when you look at all kinds of technology over time, technology is adopted in waves. When new technology comes out, the first people to adopt it tend to be the scammers. You know, it's like
yeah,
they're the first to get a hold of it because there are no regs, right? So they're free to play around with it. But then you know, the rules come in and there's legitimate adoption. I think for anybody who's afraid, that the way I would see it is we're past the sandbox and experimental phase, which has, you know, really been you know, a 10-year-long period, and now we're in the period of serious adoption. And I think when you see big companies starting to adopt the technology, you know it's pretty transformational. I give you one statistic. Actually, it's not a statistic, it's more of an observation. But if you look at the top 100 banks in the world, I can't think of one of them that doesn't have a blockchain team developing blockchain rails. Now, a lot of those are mission systems, but the point is the underlying technology behind the whole crypto space is now at the point where it's about to be legitimized by regulation. And I think that'll be, you know, obviously a tremendously important inflection point.
That's incredible. And that's the mass adoption that we're talking about. When I got into the space in 2017, I remember telling people, I have found this before most people found it, and I saw the value in it. And I said, I want to learn as much as I can now. This is almost, you know, seven and some years ago. I want to learn as much as I can about this now, because here in 5-10 years, you're going to have hundreds of millions of people coming in. And I want to be able to tell them, hey, I've been here for a few years. Here's what I know. And so I saw this mass adoption coming. I bet you did too. And it's just so cool to see it here. What would you say is the chief value proposition of blockchain technology? You kind of said it earlier, but I want to hear what you have to say on that.
The chief value proposition of blockchain technology is we live in a globalized world, but we can't move money globally. Right. Blockchain technology fundamentally allows value and data to be moved instantly anywhere in the world. I mean, it's pretty remarkable to think that anybody with a mobile phone and an internet connection can move money without any intermediary, because it builds trust between parties who don't know each other. That is a remarkable, you know, it is a genuine technical revolution in my opinion.
That's amazing. So I know I want to be respectful of your time, so I got a few closing questions here. First and foremost, is there anything else that you want to let our audience know about Uphold or about you?
No, I mean, I think one thing I'd like to tell people about Uphold, and they might not understand it. I joined Uphold because the technology of the company is truly remarkable. It's not an exchange. We sit on 30 underlying trading venues. Roughly half are centralized venues, roughly half are decentralized. The technology was built by a group of hedge funders. So, you know, hedge funders out of Chicago. So there's a high frequency trading engine that sits on top of all of those venues. And what it does in simple terms is it continually polls the market for the best pricing and the best liquidity. And that has, you know, a bunch of benefits for customers. One, deepest liquidity in the market. So if there's a market crisis, Uphold is the place you're going to be able to sell. Secondly, token discovery. We list important new tokens way earlier than most centralized exchanges because we source from DeFi, where a lot of important tokens appear first. Thirdly, we have a research team led by Dr. Martin Hiesbach. We're so fussy about what we list. We really try and put a lot of scrutiny into what we bring on board. You know, fundamentally, that's our real superpower. We're polling the market constantly, so you don't have to, and we're bringing you important tokens before our competitors.
That's all amazing and very, very important. Couple of final questions. What do you like to do when you're not working at Uphold?
I like classic cars. So I like classic cars from the 80s and 90s. So
what's your favorite car?
It's a Jaguar XJS, and I've actually, with a friend of mine, rebuilt one from scratch. And if you've ever taken a V12 engine apart, which I did over a period of 6 months, and I had like 200 ice cream cartons with all the parts in. There's an amazing picture of how the hell am I going to put this back together again? But and now once you've seen how complex it is, you're like, it's just black magic. This thing actually works.
I've got a lot of family that works on cars. If somebody can work on a car, they can work on just about anything else. What got you into the classic cars? What made you love them so much?
That's a great question. I would say when I first started, this is like 30 years ago, I was lucky enough to start my career as a journalist, and one of the early gigs I had was on on Car Magazine. So I spent a couple of years writing about cars.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And what's your favorite music? Just a couple rapid fire questions.
Oh,
your favorite artist? What's your favorite song?
Steve Winwood.
Steve Winwood. Favorite song from him?
Oh, that's a great question.
I'm gonna have to listen to it. Help Me Angel. I'll check it out. That's cool. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Oh, it would be Kingsley Amis, Lucky Jim.
It's amazing. And then let's see. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Thai.
Thai. Oh, okay. There you go. Great. All right. Well, Simon, I really appreciate your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. If there's anything final you want to say, then go right ahead. But this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
No, that was fun, Jeb. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. God bless you. Thank you so much, sir.